Hello, and welcome to the Quality Coding Stream. My name is John Reed. I am a trainer and coach at Industrial Logic and the author of this book. And hello, Mudshark. And somebody else is here. Hello. Come on into the chat. For those of you who are watching after the fact on YouTube, hey, give this a like, subscribe, and if you're watching after the fact on Twitch, follow me. Consider subscribing if you like it. Thanks for being here. And this is the time when I do an hour of live coding. I was going to say do it for you, but that's not exactly. I mean, I'm the one. Yes, I'm the one on the stage, but it's been a very collaborative thing from folks in the chat, and that is one good reason to join the Twitch streams live as they are happening, is so that you can participate and have it be interactive rather than one way. Let's see. Before I get going, I just want to pause and consider that the Russian invasion of Ukraine is now 6 months old. And when it happened, when it started, everyone thought, oh no, it's going to be done in 2 weeks. And there they are. Nobody wants war. Well, no, actually, some people want war, apparently. But normal, healthy people don't ask for war and don't desire it. And as a kind of a pacifist person, I want to say the Ukrainians are heroes, true champions. Hey, welcome, Junaid from Pakistan. Good to have you back. All right. So go Ukraine. For those of you who are in Russia, I know that speaking out is dangerous. I just want you to be aware that your country is committing crimes. And I say that with recognizing the irony that I am from the United States, which has majored in war and crimes around the world for a long time. But enough of that. Let's get to the good stuff, the fun stuff. Quick update on what I'm doing for work these days. I'm continuing to develop the e-learning. Junaid. That's interesting that they asked for TDD and trunk-based development. That's very rare. My encouragement to you would be that is a company to keep track of, and after however long they ask, try to get back in. Of course, find another job. But it's very rare to have companies ask for TDD and trunk-based development. And any company that does has my attention as like, ooh, that they stand out. So I hope you can grow in those skills and maybe get back, have another try at that interview, or go somewhere else that also does those things. Either way, you'll benefit from growing. Too bad, but yeah, hang in there. Don't give up. Keep growing. Keep learning. Thanks for letting me know. So I'm continuing to develop the e-learning in Swift. And my update here is that while you can purchase, yeah, go for it, dude. While you can purchase microtesting in Swift, that's not the only thing I've been working on. All these others I have been working on. They're not for sale yet because they're not like done, but we do have students going through them, not individual purchases, but folks in workshops, because we use the e-learning in our workshops as well. And so we have the beginnings, if you join one of our workshops, of not just microtesting. We have faking and mocking in Swift, test-driven development in Swift, refactoring in Swift, code smells in Swift, legacy code. I just started legacy code. So that's a quick update on what I'm up to at Industrial Logic. Today, let's TCR. Now last time I used TCR, that's test and commit or revert. I used that in conjunction with approval tests, which was neat and it was fun, instructive, but I thought it would be good for me to set approval tests aside and just concentrate on the TCR this time. Garbob, people look at me like I have 3 eyes doing testing in an interview. Oh, yeah. I've also been asked, like, bad testing questions. When I go in and when I've gone into interviews and I'd be like, I'm all about TDD, and they'll say, oh, yeah? Well, then why don't you TDD this complicated algorithm you've never heard of on a whiteboard? Maybe it was good that I didn't get in there. So this is Kent Beck's original article on TCR, which he describes as he didn't invent it. He's the main promoter of it. It was this fellow or person. I don't know how to pronounce it. Oddmund Strume. That's just my guess. Who said, well, because they were setting up scripts to do, like, try to get things shared between programmers really quickly so that people on different workstations were still working on the same code. And Oddmund apparently came up with this idea for this as a script. This is literally like, it will run a test and it will do that. And if that fails, it will revert. So that is what I want to do. And to show you that we have no tricks up our sleeves, we are starting once again from blank. Normally I don't ask students to do this part, but I want to do this again to learn from it, because last time I learned from it. Let's do FizzBuzz Kata. It's FizzBuzz, your friend and mine. And this time I'm going to check this, create a Git repository. I didn't do that last time. And as usual, the first thing we do is throw out the garbage test. This is all silly. I'm just in the habit of trimming this down. And then I close Xcode. The only reason I use Xcode is because there is currently an app code bug around creating new frameworks. I filed the bug and I'm tracking it. Nice thing about, I know, I talk about app code all the time, but one nice thing is that I can track the bugs that I file, or even that other people file. Exciting stuff is about to happen from app code. Very exciting. All right. Let's also use git ignore to refine this, because I think let's see, Xcode probably created a halfway decent default let's have a look. So let's, let me open this in app code. Open. Do I want to add the following file? No, I really don't. Let me resize it just a bit. And let's have a look. When I say have a look, it's because AppCode lets me switch between project view and all the files. And I think I should be able to see. Oh, it's not going to show me the git ignore? Okay. Then I'll come here. Is there no git ignore? There is no git ignore. Okay. So Xcode doesn't presume to create it for you. That's probably good. In which case, I will now take this. Yeah, it would be presumptive of them, I think. Everyone has different needs for git ignore. Let me copy this and come back to AppCode, and in the terminal, hey, don't say, let's cat that in. I also need to, I want to there we go. In addition to this, I also want to exclude AppCode files. That enough? Something like that. All right. With that, I should be able to make a commit of this initial stuff. There. Okay, so there's git ignore now. It shows up. And let's have a quick check that it doesn't have funky things. Let's do check in the git ignore. All right, so initial commit. All right, let's go. All that's just to set it up because we need git in place. That's one thing, silly me, that I learned last time from setting up this limited whip. Speaking of limited whip, okay, so here we are. Now we have, I'm going to enable TCR on past test commit, yes. And this time I'm going to leave this blank. Last time I said for approval tests, don't revert the approved artifacts. And I wanted to revert the tests too, but was encouraged not to, and so glad I didn't. Want that was following a rule of extreme programming. Lean into, if something is painful, do it more often. Which is ironically very, very much the heart of TCR. It's not ironic at all. They both come from the same person. All right, so let's try to set up, I forgot I need to add a test configuration. And come back to the project view. And now let's try to set up a test. And I'm curious. I think if it fails to compile, I don't think it will revert. But let's find out. Because right now, this creates test 0, but the actual module has nothing in it, just a header file. So will this revert? No, it didn't. Well, I mean, it failed the test, which I kind of didn't expect, actually. So what is all this? I thought I took this out. All right. Not sure what happened just there. But it looks like I mistakenly, when I removed the template tests, did I make a mistake and say remove it but keep the file there? This is going to slap me from the TCR plugin, but I'm going to say delete unwanted test. And force commit again, force commit anyway, good. So now let me try this again. Pretty sure that, yes. Okay, so now it reverts. The file is gone. So how do I do TDD? This is part of what I want to explore. Is in test-driven development, the first step is to fail, is to get to a failing test. TCR doesn't roll that way. So what can we do? Well, so I want to create a test. Let me start again. The FizzBuzz tests. Oh no. There's junk left over. Get rid of these. Try again. FizzBuzz tests. Whoops, wrong. FizzBuzz tests. So it's this failure that's causing it to die. So deleting it seems like the quickest way to get to green. And I thought it would commit. Why didn't it commit? Why is it still marked red? I think, I'm afraid I've messed it all up. Heck, why are these untracked instead of just ignored? Apologies. Maybe I should have set this up before I started, because this is a lot more fiddly than I expected. Like, why isn't it? Hey, hello. First time chat. Good to have you. And s'mores. I can't even pronounce the RY. Welcome, and good to have you. It's always fun for me to learn where folks are. We have folks from Sweden and UK and Pakistan. And Rai, welcome. So something is still funky. Something is still wrong with with my setup. I haven't even made it to FizzBuzz yet, but the fact that I have unversioned files is weird. Like, what's going on here? Did it revert my git ignore? I thought I checked that in. Copy. Git ignore is in fact gone. All right, do it again. So, Rye, this is, I am using Swift, but I'm using AppCode. Xcode is Apple's IDE. AppCode is from JetBrains, the makers of IntelliJ and various other IDEs, and it is my preferred tool. Now, why? Okay, that's better. I'm just gonna force a commit here because something's Hello. Interruptus from Buffalo, New York. Welcome. Hey, there are a lot of folks here today. It's good to have someone from representing the United States. I feel like most of my viewers are from elsewhere. Own your book and found it very helpful. Thank you so much. All right, these aren't red anymore, so hopefully this will start to work. Let's find out. Let's try this again. This should disappear when I run tests. Boop, it disappears. Ah, finally. Okay, so let's FizzBuzz. Do tests have to be integrated into the IDE, or can you just write them and then run them through a terminal CLI and not have to deal with this? Sure, you can. You don't have to use an IDE. However, there are you're going to edit the code in something, and it's better to have that something offer you support, particularly for automated refactoring. But there's no reason you can't, for example, start doing Swift on a Windows machine or a Linux box just by downloading Swift, which is available for free, and using an editor and just using the command line. In fact, you can see it in the name of the script they wrote. They started off using scripts as all part of this idea of limbo on the cheap. Is AppCode native code or Java based? I'm very controlled on what can go on my work system. It is Java based, but it doesn't use, like, it comes with its own Java engine. So, you don't like install Java in order to be able to do it, or have to control like, oh, which version of Java, it'll take care of itself. Good. As you can see, I welcome random questions. That is part of what this is for. It's not just me doing stuff. It is your chance to take the floor, take the mic. FizzBuzz. If this were an interview, and I certainly have used FizzBuzz in many interviews, I would probably, well, I didn't expect people to TDD. Quite honestly, I didn't. But in test-driven development, what's the first test we start with for FizzBuzz? I really should just bite the bullet and try out the JetBrains products. WebStorm, for instance, is like $5 a month. So yeah, what I would encourage you to try, Rye, is when you download it, you get 30 days. And so that gives you a chance to really explore it, and it'll be different from anything you've ever tried before. Try feeling it out, and then you can decide after 30 days if it's worth it or not to you. If we're talking about Swift, you don't need an IDE or even a text editor. Well, you need a text editor of some kind. Just command line. Yeah, exactly. No community edition of app code? No. But you can try app code for 30 days. There just aren't enough users. Hey, wow, lots of folks here. Welcome, Kajanga. Always watch your YouTube videos, but never caught you streaming. Hey, glad to have you on the stream. Great. What's my take on Flutter versus Swift? I don't have a take. It all depends, right? It depends what you need to build and who it's for and what the context is. So, I've never done Flutter, so that would be a new thing. If the client said we need to create one code base for multiple platforms, we'd talk. One of my concerns about cross-platform development, and this only comes from sort of the more React native side of things, is that you can, at least with React, you can have most of your code be React code and then say, this one, we really need to go native on this part. I don't know if Flutter lets you do that. So hopefully, though, they have a way to say, forget the Flutter part. Go through this door to get to native code. Both, I guess, would be my choice if I had to combine them. Would you suggest using each of their IDs separate per language or to get IDEA Ultimate? IDEA Ultimate does not work for like Swift. So I like even like WebStorm, unless I'm wrong, I don't think Ultimate does what WebStorm does. So it all depends what you need to do. Let's FizzBuzz. First test. What's a good first test of FizzBuzz for, if you don't remember the rules of FizzBuzz, it is a counting game. And it starts off 1, an integer of 1, you reply with 1, 2 becomes 2, but 3 becomes fizz because the rule is multiples of 3, you say fizz. So nothing or 1. I'm not sure how we do nothing. So let's start with 1. Test 1. Hey, another first time. Welcome all the first timers. And my goodness, this is the most people I've had here. Welcome. Maverick lives here. Good to have folks. I'm so excited. FizzBuzz, being a kids counting game, starts with natural numbers. So I don't think it accepts 0. Or at least that's not part of the game. So let's start with 1. And where I'm tempted to say, okay, now write an assertion. At this point, because I have a decent name for this test, I want to run it. And let's see. Oh, it's reusing. It's committing, but it's reusing the last commit message. On pass test. Open commit dialog or just commit. I'm going to stick with commits, but I'm going to change the let's see if I remember how to do this. I'm going to change this message to be all right, so the messages aren't going to be very helpful. I'm not going to focus on them this time. But now that is committed. Every time I'm green, it will commit. So in a Rye from Portland, Oregon. JS React front-end dev. Another person in the United States? I'm shocked. I'm shocked because so far my appeal has been mainly to Europe and India and Pakistan. And I think that's because folks outside the US folks developers tend to be very, I don't know how to put it. They're all about the new technology and not about how to code. I'm much more about how to code. So good to have you, Rye. Really, really glad. All right, so here is where things will get interesting. Like if I just, hey, Anibal, good to have you. Welcome back. It's been a while. If I say something like if it just fails to build, I don't think it reverts. Okay. Lack of fundamentals. That's why I'm here. That is what we work on at Industrial Logic. We are coaches for teams, programming teams around the world at companies you have heard of. Okay, so if it doesn't compile, it doesn't revert. It's only if the test fails that it will revert. That's good, because this lets me say, let's create FizzBuzz and evaluate 1, and this should return 1. So I think it was Rye. Were you asking about whether you can do this, whether you need an IDE? Let me show you why I use app code. So in TDD form, I have just actually let me extract this just a bit so that I can give it a concrete type. Let me show you, pragmatic programmer. If for you folks, if you have not read The Pragmatic Programmer, excellent book. That may be like one of the best places to start. I wish I had read it earlier in my career. So here's what I get to do in app code and that the other JetBrains IDEs let you do is they favor refactoring and they enable test-driven development. This is what I want to do. I want to create FizzBuzz in a new file. Let's make a struct. Sure. Put it in the test, the main target. And don't ask again, just add it. I've just reported a bug to app code that this should now go away. That is not real. What is real? Oh, there it goes. It goes away, but it gives us incorrect error. It should also say, have a red line under evaluate now to say, all right, so this is going to be evaluate the value, a number, a game, natural number. I'll just say value. Now, if I do TDD and this test, I make this test fail, which would be my normal thing to do, would be to say, let's return an empty string, or let's return something silly like haha. And in Swift, if there's a single line, a single statement, the return is implicit. This is what I would normally do in test-driven development, is to say, I want the test to fail, but I don't want the test to fail. I want it to pass. So let's jump ahead and feel out how TCR is a little different from TDD, because I expect this will commit. Good. If I look at the last change, there it is. It created FizzBuzz. So how then do I get the test to fail? And here's how. Let's change it to something else. How about let's say it should return fizz. No, it shouldn't return fizz, but I want to see the test fail. And there. And smoking pot at work. Can't tell if you are a troll or if you're like one of my colleagues who genuinely appreciates mind-opening medicinals. So I will not boot you yet, and assume good intent and answer no, because I do not smoke. Period. Like, don't smoke. Only the trolls. Only the trolls. All right, so I think this is how to TDD, is to say how to have like TDD with TCR. This was my theory, was that changing it. Let me make this smaller. There we go. Making that we get to green, and then to make sure that the test is good, and to do that we want a failing test, we break it. And when we break it, it will revert. So I think it is TDD in a slightly different order. Oh, whoa. All right, and now I'm going to inline this and run tests again. Do I think a pull request on GitHub is offensive? I'm not sure why that would be offensive, unless you're talking about pull requests in general versus trunk-based development. But on GitHub, Yeah, you know, I think I'll just keep going here. So, test one. Next one is test two. Here's the thing. In test two, I would normally now evaluate 2, and with a failing test, I would say it should be 2, but honestly, I believe the answer right now is 1, which is incorrect, but I want to commit it because I don't want to lose it. All right, I'm going to boot. Yo, thanks for coming by. I mean, keep watching, but stop wasting everyone's time. So, now we reach the interesting point. How do I move forward? And I think the answer is, obviously we need a conditional at this point. Glad I set up that Nightbot. That was from watching, learning from Jitter Ted, from whom I got live coding. I learned about Nightbot from him. So right now, this will revert. So let me make a change over here. And I'll make a change also over here. No. Let me. The reason I'm saying no is because I'm remembering I was able to ask Kent Beck about TCR. And he said that the interesting thing about it, first, he thought it was a bad idea when it was suggested to him. And therefore, he said, therefore, I have to do it. I have to try, which I love that attitude. And what they discovered is that because it's so happy to revert, it forces you to take smaller steps. So what is a smaller step that I can take to begin growing out my my code? Because I know I need a conditional. Well, let's surround this with an if-else. Yes, exactly, Mudshark. I want a conditional that returns 1 on both branches. Let me start off making the return explicit, because we're gonna go multi-line. Hey, that seems like a good enough thing to lock down. No, I don't need a conditional yet. Maverick, you're right. You are right. Okay. In that case, let's just get that in there and change this to 2. So 2 steps. 2 very small steps. Yeah. Thank you. 2 very small steps. We are on our way. This is where we need it. Right? 3 should be fizz, and this will go away. I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to say 3 first, so I don't have to keep entering this test. That is the benefit of the fear of having it reverted on you. Let's do more cheating. Let's do what Mudshark suggested. So far it does feel like I need to change both at the same time. But I want the change to be very small in both places. Both the system under test and in the test itself. Because now I think what I need is to add the conditional here. And here, surround with if else. I'm going to say surround with if else. If true. Doesn't really matter. The false case won't happen. Good. So this is how I introduce a conditional. Is saying something like that. I think I want it this way. Let's return fizz. It's never going to return fizz. This is how I'm moving in small steps. Now I think I can do that thing, and here it does feel like I need to change both the SUT and the test, but I'm working to make the changes small. Say if the value is 3, then return fizz. Phew. Interesting. You know, what's interesting is not the FizzBuzz code. That's not interesting. It's this process. It's the changes that I'm making to try to keep TCR, try to avoid losing code. Another thing about this, so if I say 6 as a multiple of 3, it's supposed to return fizz. But in test-driven development, one of Jitter Ted's main teachings about TDD that I get a lot out of is that you don't want to just fail. You want to accurately predict how it's going to fail, down to what's the message going to be. In this case, you would say, I predict that it will say 6 is not equal to fizz. I'm finding that this encodes it. Is it cheating? I don't think so. I think it is, well, or maybe it is, and maybe it's a good cheat. This is my confirmation of the existing behavior. Good. Every time I commit, every time I run tests, every time it passes tests, it's committing, right? You can see this in my log. And so to get this to fizz, I was tempted to start here, but I feel like you make the change in the SUT first. And to get here, this feels like the smallest thing I could do. Yes, it will delete the test if it fails, and that's why this is very counterintuitive. Like if I just create a new test that fails, watch carefully. Whoop, it's gone. And you're right, Rye. I want to see the test fail. In fact, did I see this test fail? I didn't, did I? I think I forgot to go back in my flow to make sure that this is not passing sort of accidentally or incidentally, but quite intentionally. And I can do that by saying, hey, don't return fizz, ever. Oop, it comes back. So I'm liking this building up of the if statement that returns having like if false or if true. This is similar to what Kent told me, which was if you want a complicated loop, you just start with like while false or while true nothing. I mean, probably shouldn't do that because it won't ever end. Maverick lives here. By choosing to allow a commit when the test is not specifying the correct behavior, then you might leave the test code in the repo with an invalid spec. That is true as a good question. And Garbob, you're right. If you don't see a test fail, you don't know it works. That's why I went back. Again, this is new. I'm learning these habits. Or trying to build them. They're not habits yet. That's the problem. And we see the test fail. This is test 3 of Fizz. It fails correctly. Can you explain the benefit of writing the test to assert the existing but incorrect behavior before changing it? So it's because I don't want to lose the test. Let's try it a different way. Whoops. So this is just some behavior for its integration with GitHub. So it doesn't, excuse me, hang on a second. It doesn't remove a failed test once the test has been committed. No, it will only revert. But if you are using TCR, it will and not committing behind its back, it will you can only commit on green, or rather, you don't commit; it commits for you. This is all just play, and these are great things to ask. So, what if I don't do this? Like, let's not do this. Let's just say test 6. And this is, obviously to be determined. Let's start it this way instead of putting in to try to get around the problem of we're coding something that's going to fail. So what I would like is for this, and now I can add the test. But it does require me to change, go back and change both the test code and the production code. And so if I break the test, it's good. Let me just confirm that, turn off the past tests and only see the failing test. Test 6, good. So now I can do, say, well, this is if value is multiple of 3, and do some refactoring. Refactoring is super, super easy. Refactoring, I've used TCR for refactoring because in refactoring, you start from green and you end in green. It was this interesting challenge that I wanted to explore today of like, yes, but what about seeing a test fail? In fact, don't need this initializer. Really don't need this to be super public, whatever. Heck, I don't even need foundation. Consider how many commits I just made. Boop, boop, boop. And the one before that is a minute ago. I'm liking this. I am almost at an hour, but I kind of want to keep going. We still have, oh gosh, a surprising number of people here. Folks who are new. Say hello. If I pass a 0, you will see a problem. In fact, for 0, it will return. I just don't think 0 is part of the game. I'm not concerned about it right now. Is 0 a multiple of 3? Oh, that's why it's not part of the game. Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. Excellent. That is not what we want. That certainly explains why 0 is not allowed. All right, let me change this back to 6. And let's, I don't know, Fizz and Buzz and FizzBuzz, the rest I think is pretty just exploring more down this. I was all set to continue, but I'm not sure that there's as much value as in, except for habit building. Maybe we should do Buzz. Okay, so let's try this again. Test 5 is going to be Buzz. So let me create test 5, but not have an assertion in there. So that is my placeholder. Parameter accepts an integer, so you will need to specify behavior for integers even if they are not expected to be part of the game. Well, that depends. Like, negative numbers. Oh yeah, what about -3? It depends on whether you want your thing to be bulletproof, or whether that even matters, or whether that might be waste. Because if you can trust the thing that is calling you to give you only valid numbers because you are in control of that thing, then creating, making it throw or adding in prod assertions, precondition checks that will crash, that it seems like waste to me. And I would rather, like if I wanted this behavior you're describing, that it should throw not a natural number, well, I would test drive that. But so this is good though. Thank you for putting these out, because FizzBuzz isn't the Bible, right? Heck, I don't even treat the Bible like the Bible, but that's another topic altogether. FizzBuzz is a place to play, and so I appreciate the play. the playfulness of it. Maybe it should. Like, what if it were a public API? Yeah, that's a different thing. Then you can't control what the inputs are. Or what if instead of receiving an integer, it received a FizzBuzz value, and FizzBuzz value was guaranteed to be only valid inputs. So there are lots of places, lots of different ways to play with this. Test 5. Let me play with test 5 just as our last bit here. I think what I would like to do for test 5 is to say, actually, I see an opportunity to refactor. And that is, instead of using if-else and building up a whole if-else tree, let me get rid of that. Ah! That makes it easier for me to say if value equals 5, well, let me just try this. I was about to reject it, but what if I do this? Now this feels weird to me. Yeah, good. Interrupt us. This feels weird. This feels un-TDD to me, because it breaks one of the cardinal rules, that is, you don't add test code without, you don't add production code without a failing test. But we can't have a failing test. Maverick Lives Here gives a great point, especially within a team, to document the behavior. And that's certainly, you know, I think I favor a hard crash over throwing something and forcing every caller to try, or I favor making a new type and using that instead of integer. But wrestling with this question, making it explicit, the bigger your team, the less control you have over who all's calling you. And if it's a public API, then you definitely don't have control over that. So great thoughts. Thank you. So what if I do this now? I expect this to pass. Now, I would love to ask Kent how he does this. Or maybe I can just go out and find other people who've done TCR to see, how do you do this? What are the steps? So we've explored a couple different things. One is to have, to say, let's start with the current behavior. How do I feel about this? Let me follow this thought for a second, because going off of your thread that tests should describe the desired behavior, except in TCR, tests describe the actual behavior. Oh, I'm doing 5. I'm doing it all wrong. Let's, if I do this, okay, so that passed. This describes not the desired behavior, but the actual behavior. So it's like, I don't know. This is an interesting thing. It's an interesting difference between TDD and TCR. The tests always describe the actual behavior. This is just a light bulb moment for me, and I'm glad we kept going for a few minutes. Wow. Right? So this will fail and revert. And so now I can say if value is 5, do that and grow it up. And so this becomes prefactoring. I'm kind of liking this better. Yeah, when you're done, quite correct, Maverick. Because in TDD, you don't commit and push the failing test to trunk. You would keep that failing locally or in a branch, but you wouldn't push it to the main branch with a failing test. So you end up there. It's just the shape of how you get there feels different and is very interesting, very curious, because now I can say, okay, now let's buzz and say, replace that with buzz. Yeah. I find myself, having done it both ways now, I'm favoring this approach of saying, let me build up, I want to drive new behavior. Let me build up a test that describes the current behavior with a different input, which is not what I ultimately want, but it currently reflects reality, and then I'll tweak it. You want me to finish this? I mean, folks are still going. I normally try to keep it at an hour, but I don't mind. Let's not 15 yet, because we need to do 10. Let's just finish FizzBuzz. So 10 will be this, but we want this. So hang on, John. Let's come back here and let's move in because let's say, let me show you why I'm moving in such small steps. If I go like this and say 10 should be for buzz, and I start typing and say value equals 11, and I get it wrong, whoop, that's gone, and that's gone. And so I'm like, oh, I need an or. I would like an or I would like an is multiple of. But let's say or. This is what I did last time. There. Now I have an or, so I'm not going to lose the or. That's the kind of thing that TCR excels at. And now I can say if value is multiple of 5. Do I want to do 15? This is, I'm glad we did buzz. Not feeling the great desire to go on all the way, because at that point it's the same thing. It's just the trick that you have to do the evaluation first. There's plenty else to explore with FizzBuzz, though. My fellow coach Steve Kuo is like Mr. FizzBuzz at Industrial Logic, because he uses it for everything. There's so much to explore in here around, like, what if we made this object-oriented? What if we made this extensible through functions, and really lean into functional programming instead of having all this these ifs. There are lots of ways to play with it. It's also a fun way to start to code up a UI to say, let's say we have this engine, how do we then use it in a proper game on a mobile app, and how do we separate UI from the evaluation engine? How does it get input to pass to FizzBuzz? What does it do with invalid inputs? And so forth. So, lessons learned. Lessons learned. I'm feeling my lessons are first, that it takes longer to do the initial setup than you may think. That get all happy. I mean, it's not complicated. It's just a little, there are a number of moving parts. And if you get it wrong, then this is not going to work. I'm really enjoying TCR. I feel like it's something I would like to do more of. And I'm glad I did this. Yeah, I'm learning things like have it use a conditional and have it return both sides. Project templates. That is not a bad idea, Garbob. That is an interesting idea. That is a very interesting idea. The only thing I would change would be the name, but I'll have to think about that. Is anyone in chat? Question for, other folks. Anyone in chat using TCR in work? Or I would ask, even in play, even for like this, FizzBuzz. Or have you? I could see, while the nuances of the difference between TDD and TCR are subtle and interesting, most places aren't even doing TDD. But I can see using this TCR setup to say, okay, I'm going to turn this on now because we are going to be doing refactoring and we don't want red. Like I want it to break on red. I think that would be a softer, gentler introduction to TCR. Right. Does TDD with jest. Yeah. In Node. Yeah, jest is all right. And good to hear, good to have TDD growing. The CEO, my boss at Industrial Logic, is has written a great book and is going around now giving talks about it, about agility. Article describes TCR as an effective way to add tests to an untested code base. Yeah, because you'd never want the test to fail, right? So that makes sense. Interrupt us if you haven't seen my last week. Check out how I use. Oh wait, no, not that one. Not that one. Go to my YouTube channel and look at my last approval tests. Not live coding, but my short approval test demonstration of how to deal with legacy code. I think you'll find that interesting. Basically, it's a thing to, it's a feature of approval tests that says, let me just throw various inputs at this thing and capture the outputs, and at least we'll characterize the existing behavior. I think you'll find it interesting and valuable. So lots of good stuff here. Folks are starting to drop off. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Hang on a second. YouTube. Let me mute. Hi, I'm John Reed. Okay. Check that out. I think you'll like it. All right, folks. Pretty much stopped all TDD for anything other than small unit tests now, however. We find for more intricate logic, writing the test first sometimes puts artificial constraints on our thinking when writing out the code we need. That's interesting. I would say maybe think about like starting more outside in TDD might do you better, where you say it just needs to get this overall behavior, and it's going to stay red for a while until we get all the pieces in place, and then it'll turn green. Or also called London School of TDD. Thanks a lot, folks. This was maybe the best and most interactive chat I've had yet, and so this was a lot of fun. Really appreciate your involvement. For those of you who are watching after the fact on Twitch or on YouTube, hey, give this a like, subscribe, hit the bell, follow, do all the things to train the algorithms in your favor, because you can always change your mind. All right, thank you very much. Good to have you. Take care.